Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I'm Jackie, and once again, we are going to review some Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes. So, not literature, but some spooky stories. So, today's episodes we're going to talk about are the tale of Apartment 214, which I have been requested to do that a while back, like a long time ago. And I didn't get around to it because I stopped filming these for a while, so I want to, so I figured now I should go ahead and get to that, reviewing that one. And also I'm going to review The Tale of the Whispering Walls. So, first of all, we have The Tale of Apartment 214. You have our two main characters, Stacy and her mom, and her mom is just separated from her dad, so they have moved into a new apartment in the city. And first of all, they make the greatest impression on the manager, who is not too happy with some of their behaviors. They do not make the best impression. He's probably one of the funniest parts of the episode, actually. And I think he's Russian or German, I'm not sure. But, he's very entertaining and you can just imagine him going into his office after a long day, dealing with people like them, and just like drinking and just smoking and being all like, great, another annoying new tenant. Just like just venting his frustrations. Anyway, so Stacy is, she keeps noticing that someone in 214 has been peeking out of the apartment ever so often, but they don't emerge. They're just like peeking out and you don't see anybody. You just see the door open a little bit. And she ends up meeting this girl, Angela, who, she asks her, after talking a little bit and being friendly and introducing themselves, she asks her about 214. And Angela says she didn't think anyone lived there. So anyway, the two agree to hang out one day later, and so they part ways, and eventually, while Stacy is wandering the halls trying to walking back to her apartment, someone comes out of 214, this sweet looking old lady who was saying, I was wondering when you would finally come over and introduce yourself to me. So Stacy, being a polite, sweet young lady, goes over and talks to this old lady, and this old lady happens to be Madeline Clagle. And she's a nice, cozy little apartment, and she's talking, and they make conversation, and she even comments on these cute artworks that Madeline has on her wall, and Madeline reveals that they are her artwork. And there's one in particular, this painting of this family, and she tells Stacy that that's her nephew Frank and his family, and that they were taking care of her for a while, but from her perspective, they got tired of her and sent her to live in this apartment, which that kind of is very interesting. Like, we don't get a lot of background on that. We're just told from Madeline this bit of information. Of course, we only, it's like a 20, if you don't count the two scenes at the end with the opening scene with the Midnight Society and whoever's narrating the story, and then the ending scene where they might have a few minutes where they talk about it for a couple minutes. Although those ones aren't as long. And then you just only have like 20 to 15 minute episode story for the story. And so they don't have really room to deep dive into that, but it's kind of interesting because, you can see from Anna's perspective, she probably does feel abandoned by her nephew and his family. And you don't know their side of the story. And you don't know what happened, like maybe she had dementia or something. Although when we meet Madeline, she seems perfectly normal, perfectly healthy. But I just was thinking about that because, I know my grandmothers are both very lonely. But, it's hard for us to, be there for them and spend time with them. Like, we live very far away from one of my grandmas, and, well, both of them actually, and it's just hard. One of them has dementia. And the other one, she's very much healthy, but she's, getting older. And I know she's very lonely, but we all have our lives and stuff. So it's not like we mean to abandon her and not be there for her. It's just very hard. And I can't drive, so I can't just visit her. And then all three of us in my household work. So, but so it's interesting to think about. It's almost sad. You kind of feel bad for them, but who knows? Maybe Frank and his family did have a perfectly good, logical reason why they couldn't be there for her anymore. So, but we're limited with our information, so it allows us to feel sorry for Madeline. So again, another very emotional ghost story. As another reviewer pointed out, all their ghost stories are very emotional, and it's very sad, and I could see where he was saying they all feel the same with their storytelling. And so we get this whole month, and so that's actually what Madeline and Stacy bond over, their loneliness, because Stacy and her mom moved here, so she's been away from her friends, and she's kind of having to start over with making new friends. So they very much bond over that, and we get this whole montage of them spending time together, which is very sweet and nice, because sometimes people like Stacy's age don't have the patience to spend time with an older person and really enjoy their company. So it's kind of nice to see that. To see these two people from different generations actually hanging out together and enjoying each other's company. But then one day she runs into Angela, and Angela finally makes a suggestion about them hanging out together. And she has tickets to the Battle of the Bands. And of course, Stacy, she's still a teenage girl. So, she ends up, well, I forgot to mention that Madeline had asked her the day before to visit her on a particular day, because it is a very important and very sad day for her. So she really wanted to have some company. And she also has a gift for Stacy. So Stacy, of course, is more than willing to come by and visit, because her and Madeline are genuinely friends. Like I said, it's kind of nice to see this young teenage girl being friends with this elderly woman and genuinely being friends with her, and not just doing it because, oh, I feel bad for her, or and maybe it started out that way. So they end up spending, but then, like I said, she runs into Angela, who has tickets to the Battle of the Bands that night, and invites Stacy to go along. So at first she's like, oh, I promised someone, but Angela does, reminds her, but this is a rare opportunity. This is ticket to Battle of the Bands. And Stacy, of course, wants to make friends with someone her own age. Like, we still, even though I'm sure she enjoys Madeline's company and spending time with her, and they really do connect, and, and are genuine friends, I think sometimes there's conversations she can't have with Madeline. And I think she would love to have someone who appreciates that's her own age. I can't picture Madeline going to this kind of concert with her. And so, the age gap does kind of limit their friendship a little bit in some ways. So she goes thinking, oh, I'll just apologize to Madeline, and, I want to make a new friend, and which you can't blame her. You can't entirely fault her for that. So she gets home that night after having this great time, and ends up going to visit Madeline. And ends up, because it's not too late, hoping it's not too late, she decides to stop by and visit Madeline and tell her how sorry she is, and she promises they'll get together tomorrow. But then the room is dark and empty, and her furniture and portraits are gone, but she finds Madeline lurking in the dark crying, and she is very upset, and of course it's a thunderstorm is going on, so they have the lightning adds to the unsettlingness of it, and she starts yelling at Stacy, and is like, you broke your promise. And this is where we get the twist, because she says, this was the worst day of my life, because this was the day I died. And it's kind of sad. You feel so bad, but it's also scary. This woman is actually really scary and creepy. She doesn't look like a rotting corpse or anything. Like, I thought that was really cool that, you don't, if you're seeing this for the first time, you don't really know because she acts like a perfectly normal little dotty old lady, a really sweet old lady that's just sitting. You can't tell that she's a ghost. Like, there were hints in the episode The Tale of the Dream Girl. There are little hints, like other people around Johnny ignore him, like don't talk to him. The only person who interacts with him is his sister. So that's kind of a hint. But it does seem, but you can make the, but with that one, you can potentially make the argument of, oh, these characters are just being mean to him or ignoring, they're just ignoring him, or the mom is really tired and just is oblivious, but yeah, that might be, for some situations like the mom, that might be a little lame, a bad argument. Well, this one you can't really tell. I mean, we don't see her interacting with anyone else. We just see her sitting there on her couch, and it's perfectly normal. And like, the only hint we might get that something's not right is that Angela's saying she doesn't think anyone lived there, and then when a terrified and feeling really horrible Stacy runs out of Madeline's apartment and she talks to her mom. Her mom is trying to calm her down and everything, and she's saying, "Oh, maybe she moved." And what is like, I mean, I guess yeah, you can make that argument, but it kind of like she would have had to been moving that day, and I think, well, it depends. I guess it depends on how much stuff she has. So maybe she could have. Maybe that could be a good argument, but Stacy's like, "But I just saw her," and she's really upset. So the next day they go talk to the manager, and he says no one lives in that apartment, and he already does not like them. So he's dismissing them, and she's like, "But no, I know I saw Madeline and stuff." And so Stacy's kind of forced to, forget it, move on, try to move on, but she still kind of wonders, looking back at Madeline's apartment door and wondering, what happened and everything. But she starts hanging out with Angela more and just having a great time being a kid, hanging out, making a new friend. And so later that week, sometime later, her mom is going out on a date with her dad to see if they can reconnect. And maybe a possibility of them getting back together. And of course, Stacy was excited about the end, so she's left alone at the apartment with her kitty. Kitty Bugsy, I think the kitty's name is. And she ends up, Bugsy kind of starts to escape and like leaves out of the apartment. Or no, I see she hears a knocking at her apartment door, and she peeks through the peek hole, and no one's there. But she does receive a note that says, "You broke your promise." So she's getting a little panicked, getting a little nervous, and then her cat sneaks out the door after she opened it, and she tries to chase him, and I think she has an encounter with Madeline twice. Once where Madeline continues to yell at her. She goes into the apartment, and Madeline continues to yell at her. She's like, "You broke your promise. How could you do that to me?" And she runs out there in a panic, bumps into the manager, and tries to tell, and it's dark, and the power's gone out, and she's trying to tell him, and he's like, "You go back to your apartment, and I'm going to the circuit breaker and fixing the electricity," and she's very distraught, but then Bugsy escapes again and goes into the apartment, and she finds Madeline there, yelling at her again, and it's like, "How could you do this? Again, saying you broke your promise. How could you do this?" And Madeline, Stacy's absolutely frightened, and she tries to tell Madeline, she's like, "I'm sorry, and I was just trying to make a new friend." And that is actually what turns Madeline around, when she tells her she was just trying to make a new friend. Because she asks her, "Stacy, did you make a new friend?" And Stacy tells her yes. And she realizes that she actually understands that, trying to make friends, and how hard it is, and how lonely it is without them. And that is when, they start talking, and Madeline realizes she has to stop and be a little more lenient on Stacy. And Stacy comes up with a compromise so Madeline won't be lonely anymore. She ends up agreeing that that Stacy and her mom switch apartments and move into Madeline's apartment because it's a lot bigger. So, and I kind of love the little ending scene where they're like moving stuff and back and forth, and the mom runs into the manager, and she's like, why do we get that apartment so much bigger yet it's so much cheaper than ours? And he's like, oh, you got it on account of discount. I mean, you got a discount on account of it being haunted. And she's like, oh, you've seen too many movies. And he just gives this look, like, it makes you wonder if he does suspect it's haunted. Like, if he's, like, if he has his suspicions, either that or he's amused by it, He just gives this funny look. But anyway, so it's a very sweet episode. Like I said, he's the funniest part about the episode is the manager. And how cranky he is, and just like he's so cantankerous and funny, and a little comical, and like it's a very heartwarming episode. Like I said, I think it's really sweet that Stacy genuinely wants to be friends with Madeline and bonds with her, and they do spend a lot of time together, which was nice. We actually see them spending time together, which I think is good. You gotta at least set that up so that it will have an emotional payoff when the scary part happens. And like I said, it got me thinking about how, like, older people, how it gets very lonely because, your family doesn't seem to have time for you because they have their own lives. And they don't always make the time or the patience or take the time to have the patience for you. Because unfortunately, when you get old, you lose your memory. Certain, like, your body is slowly winding down, not working anymore. So certain things are more difficult for you. You have to be more careful. You're more fragile, and like I said, you might get dementia. You might start developing dementia where your mind starts not working anymore. Which is kind of scary. Like that would scare me. That scares me the most. Whether it's dementia or Alzheimer's, that scares me the most. Losing my mind and forgetting things, and or seeing, my parents when they get to that point. I worry what's going to happen to them. Are they going to get to that point where they, like, I know that every older person eventually, I think, gets to the point of dementia, or at least, forgetting things. So it's kind of scary to think about. So I can understand Madeline's perspective, and I think if we got more details on the family, then I think you could kind of understand. I think you could make a case for Frank and speculate why he and his family decided to put her in this apartment building. I don't think they did it spite. They probably didn't do it out of spite. They probably just did it because they couldn't do it anymore. And like I said, Madeline seems healthy, but like I said, the twist is that she's a ghost. So we didn't know how she was in life, and we don't know how she died. We can only guess and assume that maybe she died, like, of a heart attack or something in her apartment by herself or something. Because obviously when she was alive, she still was put in that place. Her family still had her move into there. Although, if she wasn't doing that great, and if they couldn't take care of her anymore, then I think they would want to put her in assisted living. Like, that's where my paternal grandmother, she had to be put in assisted living because she still was she's still with it, but she needs extra help. And she can't necessarily take care of herself. So it's, so I don't know. I mean, I wish we had more details about Madeline. And like I said, I think it was kind of nice that this one wasn't a romance. It was actually about a friendship, just like the shiny red bicycle. And it was kind of the idea of this, and it looked at, like I said, it looked at the whole idea of, these older people, when people get older, and what happens to them, and how hard it is for them. and how sometimes they feel like their families abandon them, and that struggle of living alone, and how they just need company. They just need someone to want to spend time with them, genuinely spend time with them, not just out of, they pity them, but genuinely likes their company. But again, you're dealing with the main character is probably like 13, so it's like you can't fault her and judge her for making that mistake of going to the concert and not breaking her promise to Madeline. She probably thought, it wasn't that big of a deal at the time, and just was like, oh, well, I'll just apologize the next day or something, or if I have time, if it's not too late when I get back. She didn't realize Madeline would get so upset about it. And like I said, it's kind of not a bad twist, because you don't, this one was a little more, there was a little bit more of mystery to Madeline. You didn't know that she would, imagine if you're watching it for the first time, you wouldn't necessarily know, I don't think there's really too many hints that she's a ghost, except for the fact that, like I said, the manager and Angela don't know who she is. Although I'm surprised about that. Maybe I'm being nitpicky here, but I would think that the manager would know. But I guess there are a lot of people that live there, so maybe he doesn't necessarily know everybody. Or maybe when Madeline was living there, he wasn't the one running the building or something. I don't know. But I'm probably just being too nitpicky. But anyway, so that is the tale of Apartment 214. So sorry it took me so long to do a review for this one if you're the person who suggested it. So let me find the other one so I can get the character names for the next one, The Tale of the Whispering Walls. Let's see. Okay. Okay, where's the... Oh, crap. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. Okay, so... So we have... So the episode... Okay, so the previous episode was told by Kiki, and it kind of set up by talking about moving and stuff, which I really like. Which I could relate. I could relate to the idea, thinking of the whole process of moving, how it's both can be a pain, but also can be kind of fun. So that was how that story was set up. So the tale of the Whispering Walls was told by Betty Ann and is set up like it's Friday the 13th, I think, or no, it's a leap year. And Frank's getting annoyed because everybody keeps bringing it up. It's like this superstition and all that, and Betty Ann comes in this cloak and a creepy paper mache mask, and she's talking about it and everything, and she's like Gary, she takes her when it's her turn. She takes things. She can be laid back and have fun with it, but she also can be very serious about it to the point of, well, if you don't like it, then don't listen, kind of response. When someone complains. But anyway, so and there's also the episode like in the Tale of Silent Service, Servant. It starts with Frankie and Kiki want to sneak in a movie, and she's like doesn't want to because she knows it's wrong, and she's like, calls out to him, it's like, oh, it's over, the thing is over there or whatever, and the whole episode is her, and that's the opening for that one. So she also has a good, strong moral compass. Okay, so, in this episode, it is leap year, and so we have our main character is Louise, she is babysitting Claire and Andrew, these preteen kids, and she's just taken them to to Playland, and they're trying to drive back and find their way, but they get a little lost, and they get deviated from the directions they were going by a wrong sign and find themselves lost. So they have to go to they get to this creepy tavern, and they ask the guy for, which, by the way, this, and I was trying to think of what this creepy guy, that the guy who runs the supposed guy who ran the tavern, he's the only one there, and they are asking for directions, and he's just really weird, and he's weird costume, like he looks like he was a English military man, like maybe a Navy guy or something, but he's not English, he's Canadian. And he tells them, oh, you can cut through this shortcut in the woods. And they're like, okay, thank you, let's get out of here. We don't, you're creepy. And they accidentally find themselves at this house. And this old Victorian mansion. So Louise leaving Claire and Andrew in the car because thinking she'll be right back in a minute. She's gonna go into the house and maybe talk to the owner and see if she can get directions. But she's been gone for a long time. She has been gone a little too long. So Andrew and Claire decide they need to go in, although reluctantly on Andrew's part because he's a little creeped out. So they go in looking for Louise and exploring the house, and it's a little creepy. There's all these portraits and of these different people, and it's like really unsettling, and it kind of has a haunted mansion effect to it going on because these ghosts are following them, and it's just this. And they find Louise in this, or actually no, they don't find Louise yet. They end up finding themselves in this little room, this small little room, and it looks like Louise might have set up a tea party for them. There's all these sweets and tea and stuff, so they thinking, oh, Louise must set this up, so they decide to try the sweets, and they end up, and just as they're taking a bite, the sweets end up revealing what they really look like, and they're all rotting, and there's bugs coming out of them, and the pair freaks out, and he runs out of the house, and they're like, oh no, we can't leave Louise, and like, well, what are we gonna do? We can't drive, and there's no phone, so they're like, Claire's like, okay, let's get back to that tavern, maybe we can talk to that guy, or maybe there will be someone else there. So they walk all the way to the tavern, and the guy's not there, but there's other people there, and they're a little weird. They all are dressed differently, and they respond very weirdly to the two kids, and they're just acting, and they're obsessing, and they keep talking. You have this, they're all look like they're dressed like from different decades. This one lady who's very dressed like Victorian era or something, like says, Claire reminds her of her dear old Jane, which her sweet Jane. And there's this one guy that looks like he's from, I think he's supposed to be like the 1950s. He's all like, it's a party, just have some fun. And there's this couple, it's probably like the 40s or the 20s, talking about how, like, oh, it's a leap year, and this is such a great time for us, and we're all so excited about leap year and everything, and then you have this guy who's probably early 1900s or something, and he's the one who tells them the house that they were at was Master Raymond's house, and so, and it's just people, they're trying to, like, talk to them, ask for their help and stuff, but they're not very helpful, these people, and they're caught in their own little worlds and everything, and so Claire and Andrew take off decide to head back, see if they can find Louise again. So they go back into the apartment. Not apartment, into the mansion. They walk back to the mansion and go continue exploring the place, and end up getting lost and end up getting separated at one point. And they end up finding, actually, they may have got separated the first time they were in the house. And they end up finding Louise in this room, and she's sitting in a rocking chair with this bundle in her arms, and she's like, "Oh, look, I found this little, I'm so sorry, but I found this little baby. I couldn't abandon it." And they're like, "Oh, okay, we were so worried about you, and, well, now we can, we can go." And she's like, "Oh, let me do something about this little baby that I have." And then she's like, "Here," and throws it at Claire, and it turns out to be a pile of snakes. And Master Raymond reveals himself there that he disguised himself as their babysitter Louise, and he chases them around the house, and he ends up trying to scare them. He keeps appearing to them, and just at one point he appears to them as the image as the candelabra with the face, and he appears to them there, and meanwhile Louise is calling out to them for help as they try to find her, but they can't find her. And he chases them throughout the whole house, and just when they're trying to finally find Louise and try to get out of there, but then Master Raymond catches up with them, and Andrew's like, "No, you can't let her go." They're like, "Let her go," and everything, and he's like, "Nope." And he decides to take not only Louise, but also Claire. He's like, "You're mine now." And he tries to hold them under spell and hostage. But luckily, Andrew and his babysitter and his sister are saved by the woman who dressed like she was from the 1800s, because she talks about how Claire reminded her of her dear departed Jane, and she goes to a rescue, and she shows up. And and of course, the thing that defeats Master Raymond the ghost is wind and light. That is what defeats him. So they are able to escape. But it ends, what I like is that even though they escaped, it ends showing that they did not defeat Master Raymond. They were just able to escape him. Because we see another car has come driving up. And once again, another person that Master Raymond will probably hold hostage. So this was kind of a creepy episode. It's not anything great or anything, but I don't necessarily love the story, but it still was very creepy and unsettling. I think the ghost did a good job. We have our ghost character. Is really creepy and stuff. Let me see if I can move this. Sorry. Because I have the actor. Okay, there, that's better. We have the actor who plays Master Raymond. He looks familiar, but maybe it's just because of I just watched the episode not a few weeks ago. The actor, he did a pretty good job playing Master Raymond. He's really creepy and unsettling, and the other ghosts seem pretty creepy, and I like that they all come with their own personalities, and they act the way that time period, how you think that people from that time period might act. So it was kind of fun. I like how it explored superstition. I really like superstition stories that kind of explore the idea of superstitions. And if, there was one, I remember there was one movie on Sci-Fi Channel that was, about, a guy, I think it's Dead Still. And they recently made a TV show, which I think also is about the guy in that movie. It's the same, where his son and his son or grandson or whatever inherits his camera, and he traps all these people in the camera. He traps people in the negative portraits, like he traps their ghost or something. And that, I feel like that explores the superstition of cameras, which there are a couple episodes in Are You Afraid of the Dark that deal with superstition and like camera superstitions. Like Kiki's episode, The Tale of the Captured Souls, I feel like deals a little bit of superstition, about, taking your picture and everything. So I feel like that's a kind of fun, it's a fun episode, nothing like wow or anything, but still, like, again, it's a creepy episode, it wasn't a bad one for, and of course we're dealing with Are You Afraid of the Dark, a show that was originally, the target audience is preteens and kids, so not all, and they probably did not have the biggest budget, so it's like, there's gonna be some episodes that I feel like have potential to be really great, and they're good enough episodes for the audience and for the budget that they had. And this was one of them. I think it's a good enough episode. Like, it's not the best, but it's still pretty good. So anyway, those are my Are You Afraid of the Dark reviews of The Tale Apartment 214 and The Tale of the Whispering Walls. So I hope you enjoy these videos. I hope you enjoy it, and if you did these reviews, then please give a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Click the bell notification below if you want to be notified when I post my latest videos, whether they're book related or Are You Afraid of the Dark related. Or I'm also going to talk about, I think in October, I'm thinking about doing a video where I talk about my favorite horror movies, not necessarily books, but movies. I mean, and I might do a companion video where I do talk about the horror books I've enjoyed since I've gotten more into the genre. But like I said, I'm going to focus on the horror movies that I like. And like, I always have ideas, but I've had ideas occasionally, but sometimes there are ideas I'm like, I think about doing them, but then I don't ever get around to doing them. So I want to do some of these video ideas, like horror books and favorite horror books I've read so far, and favorite horror movies. So I will talk to you guys later. Bye.